Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran. I like to help people using a spiritual perspective. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different, which is to basically talk about healing. Okay, now I'm actually going to use a visual aid. I don't know how well this is going to work, considering that I'm just using my phone and I just drew a pretty rudimentary picture. But the idea is to really help you guys understand how you can actually heal yourself. Okay, heal the layers of yourself that are kind of in the way, right? The negativity, the self-loathing, that type of energy. Okay, the negative space between you and your higher self or your soul. Okay, between the divinity inside of you, right? So basically, before I show you the visual aid, I just wanted to go over what I mean, because it's going to make, I think if I explain it first, the visual aid might okay, I just had a stroke. Let's not worry about that. Let's start over. So basically, it'll make things easier to see when I do show you the visual aid, because again, not too sure how well it's going to show up on the video. Okay, so basically, when it comes to self-love, if you can imagine, okay, if you can imagine yourself on the inside of yourself, okay, somewhere inside of you, a space, okay, say if you were to draw a space somewhere inside of you, okay, it could be just in your heart space if you wanted to focus on that, but there is a space, a blank space, okay, separate from the rest of you, inside of your body, okay. Now this would be where everything that is truly you resides, okay. Now this would be where your soul lives, okay, if you can imagine a place like that. It would be where the universe is, where that takes place, where that's a part of, where the same energy, okay, where that source energy, that God energy, if you prefer to use that term, where that love and innocence and acceptance and value and self-love, where that is, okay, if you can imagine that's inside of you, okay, in a place. Now you might not have access to this place, but using your intuition and your higher self, I'm sure you can gauge that it does exist. Especially if you are aware that other people seem to exemplify these types of traits, these types of habits, okay, these types of ideas for themselves, okay. You might have met people that are filled with self-love and have plenty of love to give, and they seem to inspire you to be more like that, okay. Now you might also remember times in your life where you had these elements of self-love, okay, where you had this universal energy, this compassion for yourself, this universal God-like source, okay, that you felt that you were a part of, okay, something like a home even, okay, that this safe space inside of you, this innocence, that inner child, okay. Now you might not have remembered it in a long time, God knows I haven't, but there probably was this part, a time in your life, maybe when you were much younger, in which this was much more open, where you were available to it, where it was kind of just spilling out of you very, very naturally, because this space was open. There was no walls, no gates, no fears in between it, nothing to really have a barricade between that energy, okay? And so if you can imagine again that this space does exist inside of you, right? And so that this place that you might not have access to at this time does exist. And so when it comes to healing it, you also have to take into consideration that what you are healing is not that space, right? So people and myself often make the mistake in thinking that what healing means is healing or actually having to change who you are. But that's not really what healing is about, because that space is you. That space is ultimately the best parts of you. That is your the universe. That is your love. That is inside of you. And what when we are told to heal ourselves, or when we think that we have to heal ourselves, or when we know we have to, whatever, we start thinking that that's what we have to heal. And basically what I mean by this is we think that there is fundamentally something wrong with us, in which we are broken, and so that we need to be mended. So who we are needs to be fixed, right? As if we were some cheap sort of lamp or object, okay? In which that the only way to salvage would be to do everything that we can to fix it, to put everything back together. But we're not a lamp. We're much more complex than that as human beings, and definitely as spiritual beings. We're not objects. We're not material. Okay, so it's much, much deeper than that, right? You don't have to heal what's already inside of you. That's not what you're healing. You're not healing the love and the acceptance in the universe that you have inside of you. You don't need to heal that. That's already healed. It was never broken. That part of you has always been there. What you are healing is the layer that is keeping you from that. What is keeping you from realizing that? What is keeping you from connecting to that? You can think of this as walls, barriers, barricades, whatever it is, but you can think of it as something in between that space, okay? If you were to imagine this space, again, inside of you somewhere, right? And again, I'll show you what that means. I did a little drawing, but we'll see how that works again later, okay? But what's in the way, right, is what needs to be healed. And what's in the way is something thick, oozy, dark, negative, something learned, something that we ultimately created ourselves, not through any fault of our own. There was always going to be some living in a society as humans, but we could have taken on a lot from our parents, of course, from other people, relationships, and just the media, all the negativity and the darkness. Okay, it's also generational things, right? Your family history could have always suffered from dark, tragic events, or mental illnesses, alcoholism. Okay, and that would have, of course, affected you, right? Your parents' negative energy coming together, right? And so that layer, okay, now this layer is going to be outside of you. This isn't going to be something inside. What's inside is perfect, is perfect as it is, and was never broken, and is healed, and is loving, and is part of the universe, right? That's you. What isn't you is what's outside of you. This layer, this barrier. If you can imagine it, again, all imagination here, as a sort of purpley kind of negative, something that would surround you. Okay, surrounds your body from head to toe in this kind of membrane layer. Now this would be where all the pain, right? All the self-loathing, the pity, the failures, the regrets, the guilt, the anxiety, the hate, the shame, the sorrow, everything that you have, that has really kept you back, or kept you from loving yourself, and has kept you from being able to understand who you really are, to connect to that space inside of you. That stuff is surrounding you. That is the part of which needs to be healed. It isn't the inside of you that needs to be healed. It's this layer, okay? Now you can, of course, think about it if you wanted to, that it's inside of you, but I'm only suggesting that you guys think about it from an outside perspective, that it's actually, outside of that loving space, rather than have it attached to who you are, right? Think of it as something that's attached itself to you, and it makes it much easier to heal, right? I'm just saying, like, if you were to think about this negativity, this pain, the self-loathing, the hate, right? If you thought about it like a parasite, it makes it easier to heal rather than think that you're the parasite, okay? And it's just something that people do, even kind of subconsciously, little misconceptions about how to heal yourself, okay? And this is what this video is trying to help you guys do, is to how to heal yourself properly, right? How to actually do it. So again, you have this membrane, you have this negativity, you have all this pain and all this hate, this darkness, okay? It's surrounding you, it's blocking, right? Blocking your own love, blocking your own access to yourself. And so this is where the core message of the video will come in. Well, then how do you heal that? How do you heal this thin membrane? How do you break through it? And how do you get rid of it? So what you do is you imagine a third layer to that. Okay, imagine a third layer on top of this negativity and this hate. And this layer is much, much more expansive. It's bright, okay? It's beautiful in a way. It's shining, okay? There's no negativity around that. This layer is something that you create. And you create love, acceptance, okay? Patience and compassion. And care, if you wanted to add that in there. But really the main four would be, that love and acceptance, compassion, and patience. Now this is going to be the third layer. This is something that you create with your awareness, with your own divine ability. Because if you take a look in the mirror, you will realize that there is a beautiful, beautiful space inside of you that, yes, you may not be connected to, which hurts, and you don't feel comfortable in your own body, or you don't feel loved by yourself, and you just feel there's something missing, and you feel, a lot of pain and regret in it. But you know that deep inside of you there's this loving space that you can't connect to, right? And then outside of that there's this icky, gross substance that's really getting in the way, that's just keeping you from connecting to that. So when you look in the mirror, and when you're imagining this for the sake of this scenario, you now create a third layer with your awareness, because you're now looking at yourself honestly and going, I need to heal this. I need to heal this type of sickness that's surrounding me. So how can I do that? How can I really heal this in between these walls, these sick, dying, decaying walls? And how you do that is you create a new space. You create a new layer. And this layer is going to be love. Okay? This layer is going to be compassion. It's going to be patience. Okay? It's going to be acceptance. You're going to accept that there is this membrane, that there's this darkness around you. And what you do with it is you don't hate it, because it's not part of you, number one. And the more that you hate it, the more that you're treating it like it's a part of you. Okay? You don't have to hate something that has nothing to do with you. And the more that you hate the negativity, the negative self-talk, the pain, the guilt, the space that you might be in, the more that you hate that, the more that you're hating yourself. Because you continually attaching it to yourself by thinking that I am this way, I hate the fact that I'm this way. You see, there's a lot of I'ms in there, a lot of pronouns, right? A lot of identification with that I. But remove that. Think about it as a layer. Think about it as something that isn't you, okay? And so if it isn't you, it makes it easier to forgive. Because if it's not part of you, it is never your fault. We usually feel guilt, right? Pain, we attach pain and guilt and shame and stuff to things that we believe are our fault, some inherently, okay? But really it's this, all that is coming from the membrane, just the sick membrane. So when you look at this membrane, when you look at this imagined space that's surrounding you, and you treat it with love and compassion and patience, what you're doing is you're, over time, basically kind of healing it, right? Making it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, until this membrane that was surrounding you is basically being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I'm also making my, I'm making it in a way back towards that space, right? Which is where I said, if you could imagine, would be in here. So you're taking this membrane out here, and you're using love and acceptance to really push it back until it doesn't exist anymore, until what you hit is the real self. Okay? So what you're healing is this membrane. You're healing this negativity that's surrounding you, this invisible layer, and you're healing it again with acceptance and love and compassion and patience, because it isn't something that happens overnight, right? It isn't something that, takes a couple minutes to work, because you're removing and undoing years and years and years of pain, even if it's just a particular type of pain. And you don't have to even focus on it all at once. You might just want to focus on one aspect. It doesn't really matter, because all of it is going to take you towards your own self, right? Now, you might just have issues with shame, okay? And all you're going to do is focus on the shame, and ultimately that's still going to bring you back home, okay? Again, the way to heal yourself is not to think that there's anything wrong with you, and not to think that what you perceive to be wrong with you is actually a part of you. You have to start seeing it as something that is outside of you, something that is covering you, surrounding you, that you can't really see with your naked eye. You have to imagine it as if you were some type of magician, as if you were some type of alchemist, because ultimately you are. It's just the titles and the words kind of throw it off a little bit, right? But you are this powerful manifester, and you do have the ability to heal, okay? So this is basically where I'm going to start showing you the visual aid to give you guys a little bit of representation. Now, this is going to look pretty hilarious, because it's just it's not really a stick figure, but it's not good. It's not a good drawing, but it is a drawing, so hopefully it'll help. It's going to probably take up the camera, most of the space, but I am going to show you basically what this looks like, okay? So without further ado, okay, so hopefully this shows up. So basically, as you can see, okay, with this person here, right, inside of him, which is what I was talking about, there is this space. Now inside of this space is where you have the love, the acceptance, the universe, the source, okay? That's the space that you might be feeling cut off from, but that is ultimately what's inside of you, okay? Now, ignoring his weird love handles that I gave him, you will see on the outside of his body, or her body, whatever, outside of the body is this layer. Now, if you can read what some of those words say, I believe some of them are failure, sorrow, pain, hate, right? Hate right above the head there, shame, anxiety, okay? All of those negative feelings, that's the membrane I was talking about. That's what's surrounding you. And on top of that, you have this added layer. And that's where the love, right? The love at the very top there, and you have the acceptance and the compassion and the care, right? And the patience. That's the stuff that you're adding, and that's why I have that type of a funnel coming from the third eye there. Basically, it's just kind of the awareness coming through, because you are breaking out, you are aware that there's this membrane, and that's why it's breaking past the membrane and setting that intention to love and accept yourself and having compassion and patience. And again, what happens is when you have this outer layer, right, this one that you're creating and manifesting and setting your intention for, it's going to push this negative energy, this dark ooze, that is going to push it all the way into this space. It is going to heal it. This is what you're healing. You're not healing this. You're not healing who you are, because who you are is beautiful. It's the soul. It never needed to be healed. It was never broken. What you're healing is this. You're healing this layer that is surrounding you. That's what you're healing, and that's why you have it on the outside. You're taking it and you're pushing this layer back. You're pushing it and pushing it and pushing it right until you get to this space. Now, naturally, the more that you do self-love and the more that you have this type of patience with yourself and compassion, the more resistance you're going to get the closer you get to this space. Because right on the outside is where you are going to find the most resistance, because when you are so close to something is when we find ourselves very, very willing to give up, because that is when the negative self-talk is going to be at its strongest, right? And so again, take that to be encouraging if you do find yourself, like me, oftentimes to be very, very close to being this inside of this space, and you're getting a lot of resistance from, you can think of this as kind of the ego mind right here, then that's how you know you're very, very close, okay? Because again, you've permeated through. You can also see that as your spiritual awareness, your awakening. You understand the bullshit. You see past it, but that doesn't mean that you're impervious to your own faults. It just means that you become hyper aware of them. And when you're aware that there's this inside of you, you have no choice but to at some point create this. And creating this is harder, but ultimately it is how you heal this negativity, this pain, okay? Now I'm hoping this visual aid makes sense. I'm going to leave it up here just for a couple long seconds here, just to let you guys see exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Again, you have the outer layer of love, acceptance, patience, compassion, and it's going to push that negativity, that hate, that pain, that shame, that guilt. That's what you're healing. And that's going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and healing and healing and healing until you get again to the center of you, your soul. And that's where you're going to find everything that you need. Answers, wisdom, secrets, love, okay? Once we as spiritual beings get there and we heal this part, we bridge that gap, that's when we can really start expanding ourselves, because there's, this won't exist anymore. So naturally, you're just going to be surrounded by this self-love, and it's going to be much more expansive, and you're going to be manifesting things at a much faster rate and being able to help others more and really help expand the world. But that is our task to do, is to heal ourselves first, which is, again, not an overnight process, okay? So, again, guys, I hope that made sense. I know it wasn't the best drawing. A little bit weird, right? Guy looked like an alien, but I guess we kind of are or something. I don't know. They're all just terms. But hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about. Healing, again, it is a choice and an intention and an awareness that you need to have. And when you set that intention, don't make the same mistake that I always do, which is thinking that if I don't heal myself, if I don't heal myself tonight, or if I'm not better by tomorrow, then I've failed. Don't do that to yourself, guys. I've done it too many times to count to myself. I still do it in the smaller aspects of my life, maybe even bigger aspects if I'm still doing it. But the idea is, don't make that mistake, guys. You have to be absolutely patient with yourself and understand that the stuff that was brought up with you, while it may not be your fault, it is within your power to heal. And so if it is within your power to heal, you have to understand that it's also within the power of the darkness to resist that healing. So that's why it takes time, okay? Because you've given energy and power to something that doesn't serve you for so long that naturally giving power to something that would serve you is a little bit more new and a little bit more uncomfortable. And so it's, you're not really used to it. That's why it always takes so long to break bad habits or to love yourself. It takes a long time because you're not used to it. Just like with anything, right? Playing the piano, unless you're some type of gifted savant, it doesn't happen overnight, okay? So hopefully this helped. It was a little bit different, I know, but please, if you guys did resonate with this video, you guys did like it, please let me know, because I want to know if I'm actually helping people with this type of stuff, okay? I feel that this information is at least helpful. But again, let me know so I know where I'm at. All right, guys? Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed your Labor Day or whatever weird holiday we celebrated today. I don't even know what it is, but I'm sure it has something to do with something. Okay? So, all right, guys, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. Have a good day.